Jochen here, checking in after a gritty 2-1 win away at New England. With a nice early goal and Sarnes leads strike got it done, even with New England having most of the ball. Also, we've agreed to let Frigerio move on to Aston Villa, big opportunity for him, and will need to adjust fast. Next up, we've got Orlando and Colorado, both strong Eastern Conference contenders, so we'll need to be sharp to keep momentum rolling.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 67 of Red Bull KloppBot here on Sean Does FM with the New York Red Bulls. I hope you're doing well and come up day. I'm on the wrong screen, hold on, I was just applying for a job here with some outfit called Sports Interactive. It looks like they might need some help here delivering some games coming out soon thereafter. A league game designer, which is a little bit concerning for obvious reasons. Let's just change back here to Football Manager and get stuck into today's episode, but seriously, that's a little bit concerning, honestly. Fingers crossed though. We actually get FM24 at some stage. Hopefully some news might come out by the time that this video does get dropped on the Friday. Hopefully before then, might have actually had some gameplay or at least an update on what is going on. But seriously, I found that earlier today. That was a little bit concerning, but also a little bit funny as well. But coming up today, we've got two big games in the MLS against teams who are quite well up there in terms of the Eastern Conference, albeit a few way behind us on top spot on that side of the MLS. We take on Orlando, who are in third, and the Columbus Crew, who are in fourth. But we come to this one off the back of yesterday's episode, where we did take on New York City FC in a US Open Cup quarterfinal, and the Colorado Rapids, who are at that stage the top of the West in the MLS. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. We've just played the one game since then. Actually, we're a little bit lucky to come away with a win. You would have seen the highlights during the intro. It was a game away from home against the New England Revolution. That's a team we beat a couple of days ago in a prior round of that US Open Cup. This time it looked like they put a much stronger team. You can see there over on the left-hand side, players like Kramashi back from injury for this one, but thankfully came back from an equaliser at the 15-minute mark, and Leroy Sané with a very speculative effort there in the third minute of added time did mean that we just did enough there to pick up a win. Stats-wise, to be fair, this was a game that we definitely should have been winning, but to be fair, highlights-wise, it looked a little bit dodgy for a fair while, but thankfully just do enough there thanks to our star man and Leroy Sané, one of our DPs, to pick up 3 points. So it does mean going in to today's episode, we're now 6 points clear of the Chicago Fire, with 3 games in hand. Behind them by 1 point is Orlando, who've only played 2 more games now. So to be fair, a couple of big chances for us here during the course of today's episode to extend that gap on top of the Eastern Conference. And just below Orlando City, we have the Columbus Crew. So the two teams that we take on in today's episode are up there, but if we can beat them, we might get the chance here to grab a big gap on top of both the Eastern Conference and also the Supporters' Shield, considering if we go down to the West, the Seattle Sounders these days are on top, but only with 40 points. So currently it's looking like, in terms of points tallies, that the Eastern Conference is doing a lot better than the Western Conference this season. Also, when we're taking on teams from the West, we've done pretty well against them. But before we get stuck into looking at Orlando City, our first opposition in today's episode, because we do take on Nashville in between these two games that you guys will see, a transfer has gone through off the back of yesterday's episode, as was expected. We'll go over the transfer history. You can see there are already a couple of goalkeepers that hopefully we can sign during the course of today's episode. But going out indeed, it was Frigerio to Aston Villa. His release clause was $6 million, but thankfully we found a way there to get him off to Aston Villa for $8.75 million, rising to $11.25 million. So Frigerio is no longer here at New York Red Bulls. He's over with Aston Villa in the Premier League. The Colombian international had that release clause that was triggered by a Mexican club. So thankfully, we're able to do a bit of dodgy business there with Aston Villa, somehow get them there to pay overs on him. So we do need a new goalkeeper, as you saw before, a couple that we have got bids in for. Hopefully they're going to sign one of them during the course of today's episode. Unfortunately, have had to wait till Frigerio left to make sure we had some space in terms of our wage as well as our salary cap. But our previous young designated player in Frigerio has gone to Aston Villa, so it does mean have a little bit of money that we can spend on that replacement goalkeeper. We do have to put a fair bit of it into the wage budget, so around $4.5 million that we do have to spend, albeit that could be bumped up if we do sign someone who wants a bit less of a wage than $65k a week. But hopefully we'll get someone through before that second game that we play in today's episode, considering that the foreign transfer window does open back up on the 10th of July. just before we take on Columbus. But first up today, we take on Orlando. As you saw earlier, they're currently sitting in third in the East, but to be fair, 7 points behind us. Hopefully we can beat these guys, make the most of these games in hand that we do have. Just like us, they're a 3.5-star reputation club. To be fair, their form of late has been pretty good up until they took on the second place team in the East in their most recent game a couple of days ago, where they lost 2-0 to Chicago away from home. So fingers crossed based on that, we can pick up a win. To be fair, Chicago haven't played them yet. I think we take them on twice late on in this season here in the MLS, but before then, they were in good form, picking up wins over St. Louis, Toronto, Minnesota, and Colorado. So they have been doing quite well up until that defeat against the Fire. Their manager is from Switzerland, has quite a nice hairdo there, and does like a 4-2-3-1. Their captain, that's Gaston Gonzalez, the Argentinian winger come striker, a very good player with 4.5-star current ability and potential. Surprisingly, not even on a designated player contract, only a senior one. So to be fair, that's a pretty good player they've got there, not on a DP contract. That might mean these guys are actually a pretty good team. Their vice-captain, Dembo Sayala, who is from Guinea, 27 years old, who can play anywhere down that right-hand side. You'd probably think a right back, considering he is quite good at tackling. He looks pretty handy as well with those attributes that he does have, is currently wanted by Red Bull Salzburg and Santos Laguna. So to be fair, he might want to show it in this game to show the Red Bull people that he does deserve a move over to Salzburg. Might be looking here to impress the KloppBot, but their key player, that would be Juan Gonzalez, a Spanish midfielder who does look very good in actual DP, just like the captain, with 4.5-star current ability and potential. So to be fair, looking at some of the key players here in this Orlando squad, you can kind of see why they're doing quite well. They've got a few very talented players there in the key ones. This might actually be a bit of a tough one for us, even though this is at home, just like our second game in today's episode. We are currently taking on these tough teams on paper at home quite a bit in this series so far this season here with the New York Red Bulls. But fingers crossed we can pick up a result here, extend our gap on top of the Eastern Conference. In terms of injuries, we have picked up a couple. Unfortunately, MB is out again with an injury. He's got a hamstring strain. He'll be missing for 7 days to 2 weeks. So unfortunately, won't be featuring any of the game in today's episode. That's going to impact us more than Colin Moore being injured, our third choice centre back, because of course, had those youngsters we picked up in the draft going into this season. But unfortunately, he's got a hamstring strain and he is out for 3 to 5 weeks. So I'm missing a couple of players going into today's episode, but the main one is MV. It does mean that Berchamus will have to do a job for us at left wing. And also currently, we've got Nelson Insfran in goal, a little bit better than Pacheco off the back of that departure of Frigerio. But fingers crossed here, we can continue our very good run, which I think is around 18 games now without defeat here at the New York Red Bulls, with a win here over Orlando City. And here are the team sheets for this first game in today's episode. As we ran through before, our team Insfran comes in goal off the back of that sale of Frigerio, and also we do have Berchamus at left wing, but apart from that, this is our best 11 near Orlando, going with that 4-2-3-1 as we suspected when looking at that club profile. But some quite good players in that squad. Fingers crossed here we can get the better of them, make the most here of these games in hand, and extend that gap on top of the Eastern Conference as well as the Supporters' Shield. And only 2 minutes in, we get an early highlight hero corner, which we try and put near post there. And I'm pretty sure Pirani got up to head that one home, but unfortunately, it comes off the underside of the crossbar, and Orlando can just scramble that one away. So unfortunately, a good chance early. We don't quite take it. Still 0-0. And we go for the 20-minute mark for our next highlight here. A free kick, we go far post, and we get a shot on target, but the goalkeeper, I think, parried that one out. Not too sure if Sane got a touch on that one. It came off a defender, though, I'm pretty sure. And I think here that Zenta might have headed this one home. So a little bit messy there from this highlight indeed. It's actually Emmy there at the far post. Sane did get a touch on that one, but somehow it falls to Zenta, who puts that one away. So a couple of chances for us now from set piece. We eventually take one and make it 1-0. And we just make our way into the last 5 minutes of the first half of this game so far. Just those couple of set piece highlights that you saw inside of those first 20 minutes. Thankfully, Pirani, it was actually not Zenta. There were all sorts of names coming up from that highlight before, where we did score that goal, but he hit it at home from short range to make it 1-0. Unfortunately, there for Orlando, they lose a player there right on the brink of halftime, so we'll be forced into a sub. But I think currently we're not looking too bad out there. Only with a 1-goal lead, fingers crossed, we can grab a cushion goal early here in the second half and make sure we pick up all 3 points. And going forward to the hour mark, we're actually going to make a couple of subs now here, our first couple of this game. A couple of players out there only on a 6.4 and also Ringier on a 6.5. So we're going to make a few subs here. We'll bring on Antwi at right back for Zanotti. Hausawi can come on for Renier. Molina going a bit fairly today. Olvera, he can come on up front. So a couple of subs here as we hit the hour mark. Not too much happening so far here in the second half. And going forward a minute now, it is Zenta who goes down to a red heart, playing quite well. But Joe Apples, he can come off the bench for him. So a couple of subs here as we hit the hour mark in this game. But thankfully, we are still 1-0 in front, albeit now a free kick here and quite a handy spot for Orlando City as Leroy Sané has just picked up a yellow card. So maybe that'll be our final sub, seeing as he is quite old these days and quite injury prone. But Bravo with a free kick. It goes very close, but thankfully it comes off the woodwork. Not too sure if Insfran would have saved that if it was just the right side of the post. But we're going to make our final sub, Robertson, on for Sane with that yellow card. But thankfully, still 1-0 in front. And going forward a few more minutes from that last sub that we did make, now it's a corner here for Orlando. They scramble it around there inside the box. A good chance there for Gonzalez, albeit from a tight angle. And thankfully, Nelson Infran comes up there with a decent save, albeit you'd expect him to from that angle, but still at quite close range. He did well there, and off the back of that, we clear it away. Unfortunately, nothing doing, despite the fact that it should have been Olvera who was up there close to on his lonesome. So we're about to make our way the last 15 minutes of this game now. Free kick here for Orlando, and for some reason, Gaston Gonzalez given a ton of space there at the far post. Not too sure what's happened there. We'll just wait and see if he stayed onside. Unfortunately, that is the case. Maybe some tired players here in our squad are going to prove costly here late on in this game, because it does feel like off the back of those subs that we made around the hour mark, we have just fallen off a little bit. Still not too sure there what our defenders are doing down that left-hand side. Actually, aren't we? Who look like there he should be marking someone at that far post. Not too sure why, considering he's the right back on that side. But unfortunately, Orlando, they make it 1-1, and maybe the momentum is on their side. But a free kick here, which they do take short. We try and put some pressure on them there. Bravo picked up the assist, but unfortunately, they still keep hold of the ball. Their goalkeeper pumps it deep, but thankfully, Apples there under no pressure. He'll pick up Birchamus here, who takes his time on the ball, goes back there to Apples, who picks out Pirani, goes in there to Hausawi. Down the right-hand side, he got put under a bit of pressure, but thankfully can beat there Alton Talo just inside that left-hand upright, and he does make it 2-1 and did stay onside. So thankfully, not 1-1 here for too long. Late on in this game, we find Hausawi there in space down our right-hand side, but to be fair, that clearance before from their goalkeeper, a bit of a shocker. It went straight to Joe Apples, and from there, we did get on the attack. He played a big hand in that goal. In the end, it's Pirani who will pick up the assist. That makes it 2-1. Off the back of that, I think it's time for us here to lower down our tempo and start to time waste just a little bit. Also, be more disciplined and not run at defence so much. As I said previously, do like to turn that one off when in time wasting mode. It was a bit of a weird instruction that the KloppBot gave us there for our time here in the MLS. We sneak our way the last 5 minutes of this game, thankfully, still holding on to a 2-1 lead. To be fair, this game, quite similar to that previous one I played off camera against the New England Revolution. Now we make our way into 5 minutes of added time with a bit more time wasting going on, and thankfully, it looks like that will do the job. Quite similar, as I said, to that Revolution game where Sane scored a late winner. That wasn't the best performance in terms of what we did see. Probably could have scored a few more goals there in the first half. And those subs that we made when players got tired around the hour mark, it did feel like it might have turned the momentum in Orlando's favour. But thankfully, Hausawi scores a late winner for us there off the bench to make sure we pick up all 3 points here against the team who were third in the Eastern Conference. These days, they drop down to fourth as Columbus just go above them. But it does mean now we're 9 points clear with 3 games in hand over the teams just behind us. So we just do enough there to win our first game in today's episode, and thankfully off the back of that we took on Nashville. This was a lot easier against a team just inside of the playoff positions there. In the Eastern Conference, a rampant first half from us here. We were 5-0 at halftime thanks to an early goal to Birchamus again. Also Molina with a double, Renier and Robinson. They made it 5-0 just before the half. They grabbed one back there with about 25 minutes to go, but really that game was all over by halftime. It did mean we subbed off quite a few players there going into the second half, so you can kind of see there through that match momentum down the bottom. And also, if we go over here on the analysis screen, that Nashville did get up a bit of a head of steam in that second half, but really all over by halftime there. We pick up a 5-1 win, so it does mean that our gap now on top of the Eastern Conference actually extended out to 10 points. All of a sudden, we've got a massive gap here, not just in the Eastern Conference, but if we go down further, still quite a big gap over the top team in the West as well. So currently looking pretty good for a Supporters' Shield as long as we can keep this run of form going for a little while longer. Of course, off the back of today's episode, we then get stuck in the Leagues Cup, and off the back of that, we do then get stuck into the semis and hopefully the final as well of that US Open Cup, which we have had the draws come through for during that period that we did just get through off camera. You can see there in the Leagues Cup, we're in Group 9, which I'm pretty sure is quite close to the same group number that we had last season, but we've got Club Lyon, if we check those guys out there, currently in 4th over in Liga MX. So to be fair, that's a little bit there of a big team we take on from Mexico. That could be a tricky game considering how we did against Tigres in the CONCACAF Champions League at the start of the season. And then we've got CF Montreal, who aren't quite as good. Unfortunately, played them straight after that as well in the MLS, but they are bottom of the Eastern Conference. All the Canadian teams in this saver, they suck something shocking, unfortunately, for you Canadians out there. And Montreal, they are no different. So really, at the very least, should be getting through as one of the top 2 teams from our group in the Leagues Cup. And going back over to our schedule, off the back of that and that second Montreal game, we have the San Jose Earthquakes in our semi-final of the US Open Cup. They're currently sitting in 10th in the West. So yeah, a couple of easy games there it looks like against fellow MLS teams there in those cup competitions. Fingers crossed though, it does mean we can make a cup final against one of Charles FC or the Tampa Bay Rowdies from USL. So really, should be winning that US Open Cup, it looks like, considering how well we are doing currently in the MLS. But of course, we did need to sign a goalkeeper off the back of that seller Frigerio. The transfer window has now opened up for foreign players, and thankfully, we did bring one in, and thankfully, eventually, it ended up being the one that I was after, and Mbemba Coulibaly. He comes in from Auxerre for £4.4 million and a direct replacement for Frigerio as he comes in as a young designated player at only 19 years old already. His 28 caps there for Mali, 3-star current ability, 4.5-star potential, a very similar player to the one that we did just let go of to Aston Villa. To be fair, his first touch, pretty poor for that sweeper keeper role that we do use, but seeing as he was at Auxerre and they got relegated down to Ligue 2, he was keen on a move away from the club, and thankfully he chose us over quite a few European clubs. So he comes in now as our new first choice goalkeeper, so it does mean he'll be his first start for the club in this upcoming clash where we take on the Columbus Crew, who sit in third in the Eastern Conference. Surprisingly, Orlando actually made their way back up to second off the back of that loss that they suffered to us. Their recent form though, a little bit patchy. They lost to Tampa in the quarterfinals of that US Open Cup, which obviously would be a bit of a concern considering that they're not in the MLS. Off the back of that, they've drawn with LAFC and Montreal. Also beat Real Salt Lake, who were the Western Conference champions last season, but in amongst that as well, a loss to Inter Miami. So a bit of up and down form here for the Columbus Crew, but of course, we're quite familiar with these guys. They beat us in a penalty shootout in the group stage of the Leagues Cup last season, and then they beat us in the first round of the playoffs. This is the only team I think so far in the MLS that we've played against who we haven't beaten. So fingers crossed we can get the job done here. They've still got John Herdman in charge, the Englishman, with a 5-3-2, who of course has some pretty big ties to New Zealand. Their captain, Jesus Bano, pretty sure he was there last season. The Venezuelan defensive midfielder, their vice captain, that would be Christian Carlina. Again, I'm pretty sure he was there last season. It's getting on these days, but it does look quite handy apart from those physicals. Their key player, though, that would be Liam Gibbs, 27 years old, from England, and it's his first season at the club. So I think a new player there for Columbus this season as they look to continue to have the wood over us in this save. But fingers crossed we can finally beat them with this 5 at the back formation and go even further clear on top of the Eastern Conference. And here are the team sheets as we take on our bogey team here currently in the save. I did say before we haven't bet them yet, obviously, actually did that in the second leg of that first round knockout tie last season, but they still got past us, so it doesn't really feel like we've beaten them yet. In terms of us, just that new goalkeeper coming in, apart from that same team that we put out for that first game, and indeed, Columbus are sticking with that 5 at the back, which has proven so tricky for us so far since we've come here, the New York Red Bulls, but fingers crossed here we can beat them and go even further on top of the Eastern Conference. And it doesn't take too long for the first highlight of this game. Not too sure what's going on there with my menus that you'll see shortly once we do get into the off highlight screen, because something weird's happened off the back of that game I played previously. But good to the ball there. We try and play through for Molina. Unfortunately, can't quite link up, but thankfully do keep hold of it there from that clearance centre. We'll float the far post. Looking for Renier, unfortunately, can't quite get a hit on it, but now Zanotti will fizz that one into the mix. A bit of a calamity there at the back, but thankfully Renier can poke that one home and makes it 1-0. So hopefully off to a good start here, can pick up yet another win in the MLS and finally get a good result here over Columbus in a game that does matter, albeit we're 10 points clear maybe. That's a bit of a stretch, but thankfully a good start thanks to one of our DPs. We go 1-0 in front. And in fact, only a few minutes off back that opening goal, which we were rather fortunate there to put away a bit of a mess at the back there from Columbus. We were there on the attack, unfortunately, though, do lose out on the ball, albeit that one there, down the right-hand side, we do intercept there through Zenta. Now Pirani with an effort from just outside the box, but unfortunately, that one does go just wide. There you can see what I'm trying to fix here in terms of my menus. I'll try and sort this out, because it's a bit weird looking considering what was coming up before. Not too sure how this has happened, but thankfully we won them in front 10 minutes in. And going forward only a few more minutes in game, but I've finally sorted out those menus in the in-between highlight screens. But Columbus there with a corner, thankfully, just do enough there to deal with that. We hoof it clear, unfortunately. Flick it on there, and Bueno can claim that one quite safely for Columbus. Plays it out there to Bombito, who now gets Columbus here inside our half. But thankfully go looking a bit too early there for their striker, and Ami can step in there and win that ball back for us. Get it out to Zenta, who so far is looking quite dangerous in this game. Just starts to make his way forward here a little bit. Down the left-hand side, that ball for Birchmas is not quite on the money, but seriously, what's Kalina doing there? Because it's given an own goal against Sabe, but really, he should be in the way of that one. That's an absolute horror start here for Columbus. Both goals really have come from errors at the back, but this one, not too sure if they can blame Sabe. Kalina just a step there towards the post, and he should save that one. So a little bit of a harsh own goal, but we'll take it. 2-0, just shy of the 20-minute mark, albeit now we go down the other end. But good work there. I think, again, that might have been from Zenta to win that ball back for us, but unfortunately there, we then lose it. Only a few touches later now, Fernandez puts that one into the mixer for Thiago Borbas, who beats our new goalkeeper there from a little bit of a tight angle. Just wait and see if he was onside, but I dare say he was, because they've got the ball. They're taking it back already to halfway, so unfortunately, that own goal gets made up for pretty quickly. But to be fair, if I was the manager and considered that own goal, I think I'd deserve one back as well, seeing how that one really should have been stopped. So not too many complaints here, conceding that goal off the back of that dodgy one we did get given before, 2-1 at the 20-minute mark. And lots of action happening in the first half of this game. Columbus now actually starting to get on the front foot here with a front inside the final third. Good ball there on the volley, but thankfully the striker just puts that one wide. So Columbus off the back of that goal, off the back of the own goal, which they gave us, are now starting to make their way into this game. Boy, it looks a bit weird what's going on here with the camera in this one as well as the menus, but thankfully did sort that out sort of eventually. But now Columbus here trying to make their way out from the back, not doing too good a job, but unfortunately just doing enough here to keep hold of the ball. Bueno plays that one over the top. Unfortunately, can't win it back as well. They're getting quite lucky here, keeping hold of the ball. Eventually, Cesar does step up a ball over the top there looking for Molina, but can't quite find him. So Columbus here are back on the ball, but thankfully, that time they go a bit too deep, and Zanotti can get that one back for us. Now we play it forward there to Leroy Sané. Nice through ball there for Molina, who puts it away. Fingers crossed he stayed onside. Truth be told, that looked a little bit too good to actually count as a goal, but our players are celebrating. It will count. So thankfully, Leroy Sané there with a really good through ball for Molina. He played that one back there, I think it was, to Cesar and gets it back. And it's a wonderful ball. Molina must have just done enough there to stay onside. Leroy Sané picks up an assist, and thankfully we get our 2-goal cushion back here and make it 3-1. About 10 minutes shy of halftime as Molina just does enough there to stay onside. And just making our way into the last couple of minutes of this first half, it's been quite action-packed, lots of highlights, a couple of really bad mistakes there early from Columbus, really gifting us 2 goals, and we've made the most of that. We have a 3-1 lead. I think that's a little bit of a harsh scoreline, honestly. Could be about 1-1 with the mistakes they made for those first 2 goals, but we'll take it considering our record so far in this save. Against the Crew, we're going to make no subs just like that previous game at halftime, seeing as we are doing pretty well in terms of the scoreline, 3-1, as we get stuck in to the second half. And we don't have to wait long. We'll here for the first highlight of this half. It's only about 40 seconds in. And we've got a throw here inside of the opposition half. Renier will take on a shot there, thanks to the assist from Zanotti, and beats Kalina from a tight angle. He's having an absolute shocker in this game. That own goal, really, that should go down to him. And from a throw-in, only 40 seconds in, Renier gets this ball. It goes back to Zanotti, who picks out Renier again, who finds some space there down our right-hand side. That might have taken a little bit of a deflection, but still, he gets beaten there at his near post, does Kalina, and we make it 4-1 off the back of that. There is a highlight here, though. Columbus on the ball from the restart of this game so far has been very action-packed. Looks like it will continue here in the second half. Barbas plays the ball over the top there and picks out the Asabe quite well. Of course, technically the own goal scorer. That's not a great clearance there, though, from our goalkeeper, but thankfully we somehow keep hold of it. Now Renier makes his way into the final third. A good tackle there, though, from Columbus. Not too sure why that was a highlight, but we have 4-1 in front. And just going past the 50-minute mark, I think it's time for us here to make our first couple of subs in this game. Antonio Tikvich on a yellow card. GC Joyce can come off the bench, still more injured for the second half of this game. Give him some game time, seeing as we do have a free goalie, and also Birchmus going a little bit barely. So I think here we're going to take him off, and we might bring on Zhao Hongyu for him. Renier can do a bit of a job there at left wing. He'll stay out there, seeing as he is sitting on a hat-trick. Couple of subs there, but we do have a nice 4-1 lead. And only a few minutes after those first couple of subs that we did make, we roll the ball out there through Koulibaly, and a nice ball over the top there too for Renier, who takes on a long-range effort, and to be fair, that forces a pretty good save out of Kalina. We probably could have beaten him there, considering the form he's been in so far today, but this time it does come up with a decent save. Unfortunately, that corner does get headed away, and Zhao Hongyu can't get us going forward, so I dare say this highlight might be about to stop. We are still 4-1 in front as we hit the hour mark. And the highlights continue to flood in this game. Just a few minutes off that previous one, announced Columbus here with a throw on the halfway line. I switch that one out left there and get it back there to Bombito, who I believe might be one of their centre-backs. They try and play that one through, but Joyce there with a bit of a good interception does mean we keep hold of that ball, and Zhao plays it back there to Koulibaly, who so far having a solid debut, did concede that goal, but really it's a nice debut for him with this big lead that we do have. Just keep hold of the ball there down our left-hand side, and Caesar gets it there, plays it back to our centre-backs. A good switch there too from Ami out to Zanotti down our right-hand side. Zhao Hongyu now running around with the ball there and plays it back to Ami. Now Hongyu back on the ball, goes up there to Sane. Caesar with a ball over the top. It's run onto nicely there by Gabriel Pirani. Fingers crossed though, he stayed onside. Not too sure if that was the case, but thankfully it was. And we are really putting Columbus to the sword here in this game. We're looking well and truly like the best team in the MLS at the moment. Took a wee while for us there to get going in this highlight, but it's a really good finish there on the volley. Kalina continues to have an absolute shocker. 5-1 to the Red Bulls with still 25 minutes left. And in fact, right off the back of that goal, there's a highlight from the restart, so I can't catch my breath just yet. Columbus here are on the ball. Kuipers plays that one back there to Donker, who tries to get something going. They play a ball deep there looking for their striker, but thankfully Joyce can clear that one somewhat. Now Renier plays that one back there to Zanotti, and Sane starts to make his way forward. Another ball over the top. That one gets missed over by their defender. A good chance for Molina, but unfortunately he drags that one wide. Lots of chances for us here to make it 6-1. And again, a highlight pretty much immediately off the back of that previous one, but this time deep inside of our own half. Zenta there, he will find that would have been Renier down our left-hand side. We eventually get it forward, though, to Leroy Sané, who picks up a goal. Really good assist earlier for the first of Molina's goals. He's now also sitting on a hat-trick, but that makes it 6-1 in Columbus. Completely at sea here in this game. Their goalkeeper still not having too good a game. Sané just rolls that one right under him. He's definitely making some interesting decisions so far in this game, is Kalina. But it's 6-1 to the Red Bulls, and off the back of that, we are going to make some subs. In fact, Molina still only has the one goal. For some reason, thought he was on a hat-trick, but Olvera can come on for him. We'll leave Renier out there on a hat-trick, but take off Sané, seeing as he does get quite injury-prone for James Robertson. And also, let's take off Centre, coming back still a little bit from injury for Joe Apples, the youngster. Let's give him some game time with that 6-1 lead. And the action continues in this game. A free kick for us here with 10 minutes left. Currently really on Renier hat-trick watch late on in this game, because it's well and truly all over. 6-1 in front here, an absolute thrashing of Columbus for the first time really since we've come here with the Red Bulls, which is quite nice. So fingers crossed this might put them in the mud for the remainder of this season, seeing as so far they've been the team that we have struggled to beat. Renier gets a header off. Unfortunately though, Kalina tips it onto the woodwork and it doesn't quite make its way over the lines. It was a good chance for Renier there to complete a hat-trick, but really this has been an absolute demolition job of Columbus, albeit, as I've said a few times, I think the goalkeeper hasn't helped them out too much, but a late highlight here. We're about to make our way into injury time. To be fair, there could be a fair bit of that considering all the goals that have been happening. Somehow keep that ball there down our left-hand side for Renier. Pull that one back there for Pirani, who does love a goal from outside the box, but unfortunately that one does go just high and wide. We make our way into the 3 minutes of added time, and mercifully for Columbus, that is all over their goalkeeper. 5.9, I think it is. Also one of the defenders who they took off on a similar rating, but that was an absolute demolition job. Sabe with an own goal, which really I think should be attributed more to the goalkeeper, as I've said a few times now, but both those players having absolute shockers. They're in the red with their ratings, but our guys put out their very good performance, and we'll just see how far that puts us now on top of the Eastern Conference. It's 13 points clear, and we've still got that game in hand, so well and truly running away here with both the Eastern Conference and the Supporters' Shield off the back of that 6-1 demolition of the Columbus Crew. So we're well and truly flying these days here at the New York Red Bulls. A couple of really big wins there against Nashville and Columbus off the back of that narrow one against Orlando in that first game of today's episode. So thankfully off the back of a couple of rough games, we just did enough to pick up wins. Now we're picking up some very comfy ones. Fingers crossed that continues once we make our way into the League's Cup come the start of next week. Renier there picking up now. The match didn't quite get a hat trick, but still had a very good game. But I think that will do it for today's episode. To be fair now, I think we can focus on the Cup for a wee while. Orlando did close that gap to 10 points playing later on that match day, but still, we're a long way in front in the Eastern Conference with 2 games in hand, and it's the exact same case in the Supporters' Shield. The Eastern Conference doing a lot better than the Western one, so it's looking like we're in pretty safe shape here to hopefully pick up at least one trophy this season with that Supporters' Shield, and also hopefully can pick up at least one of the domestic cups as well, which we'll start to get into come the start of next week, starting with the group phase of the League's Cup. But if you enjoyed today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well until the start of next week, as I said, for the group phase of the League's Cup. Where, to be fair, we could get a bit of a tougher game when we take on Club Leon from Mexico as well, maybe as Montreal, depending on the whole group situation with 2 teams going through in that competition. But until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.